What would have been like for young Carl Banks to have a camera, phone, and social media?
The one that caught me falling off a motorcycle like a week before camp.
You're listening to the Believe in Giants podcast with two-time Super Bowl winner Carl Banks and the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa.
To another edition of Believe in Giants presented by FanDuel. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. And Carl, we're getting close to the training camp. The Giants announced a couple players that will start camp on PUP: Thomas Fidone, Sam Roberts, and Roy Robertson-Harris, who we knew definitely with the Achilles injury. No Malik Nabers on that list, which I think maybe surprised some people.
Yeah, I mean, I think people were kind of thrown off when he had to have that maintenance on his knee, on his surgically repaired knee. And, people assumed it was a botched something that didn't go right. And, it was just to clean up scar tissue or whatever to really increase his range of motion or give him full range of motion. So everybody expected the worst. And, we had Coach on earlier this week. He said he's going to have to he's working his way back in, which means that he's not fully back, but he's close enough to what I got out of that is that he's close enough to where he'll be ready at some point during camp where he's working himself back into football routines and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's any kind of guarantee he's going to start week one or be ready to go. We don't know. Like it's July. We don't know. Carl, I want to ask you about this because first of all, I want to thank all of our listeners, all of our viewers that tuned in Moss for the John Harbaugh interview. And of course, the Scatterboo thing got a lot of chatter on every media platform out there. Jackson Dart throwing a dime off a yacht. And then, of course, there's the get off the lawn crowd. Like, what are these guys doing? Yeah. And all that other stuff. What would have been like for young Carl Banks to have a camera, phone, and social media?
The one that caught me falling off a motorcycle like a week before camp. It would be different, man. I just think what we kind of lose sight of, and this is not a slight or any type of disrespect to people who are, I think, in a nanny state, right? You see all the money the guys are making, and it's all relative. The money I made when I played was relative to that time. And a loss is a loss. But what really gets lost on people is that these are kids, they're rough and tumble, and this is football. Football is a rough and tumble sport. These kids have been doing these things. It's not like Cam Scatterboo tried a backflip for the first time to test his surgically repaired ankle, and he's like, I'm going to try this backflip to prove to everybody that, and I've never done a backflip before, but I'm going to try it, see if my ankle holds up. That's not what they do. Or jumping off a yacht, that's what they do. They've been doing it their whole lives, and there are things that I've done my whole life. You're just a rough and tumble kids. This is what they are. And I understand that from a fandom perspective, you want to protect your investment as well as the team. But this is who they are, folks. This is unlike the incident with Jason Pierre-Paul, where he had the fireworks incident, but he probably had been doing that his whole life too. So it just happens. And, stick the landing, as Coach said, and we move on.
Yeah, I mean, he did the backflip at license plate guys Brian Burns' charity softball game, which was like a month and a half ago, and he did stick the landing on that deal. When I think back on it, I think of you were an entrepreneur as a player, cultivating your business. Every so often, Big Blue VCR will air that HBO Inside the NFL piece on what Carl Banks does in his off days. And, I can't remember what the name of the restaurant was, the luncheon that you used to host.
Crystal,
yeah.
Crystal
and
Steakhouse.
It was a business meeting kind of deal. My guess is Carl Banks would have been very active on social media if social media existed when a player, because you were building a brand, and it would have been another avenue for you to build your brand that you didn't have. You needed HBO to come in and do a feature on you.
Right. I would have fully taken advantage of social media. And, we probably, because let's not water it down, you were my host of those luncheons, and we probably would have monetized the live stream, depending on who we had. But it was, it was a private luncheon. It was a membership only luncheon where it's kind of reflective of what we, how we work now, where, it's no holds barred. We, come in, if you're a fan and you're a part of this membership, ask us anything. We'll give it to you straight. And these were all, Lexington Avenue, the steakhouse was on Lexington Avenue, but it was all people that were huge Giants fans from all different sectors of business. And they got a chance to really ask questions and be a fan. And it was, if we were in this era, yes, we would have somehow taken advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mark Collins is active on social media now. If Mark Collins had the platform when he was a player, I'm assuming he would have been pretty active on social media then.
He would have been. He carried a camera with him all the time. So, yeah. Gary Reasons is another one. Sean Landetta probably wouldn't want as much on social media because he was page 6 before page 6 was a thing with athletes. But yeah, I think, guys take advantage of their platforms today. Many do it in a very constructive way. Some do it just as as part of a fan interaction thing. But I think, social media, when used responsibly, is great. I guess I don't want to say the downside to that, but I guess the flip side to that is that fans have access to the same thing, and they carry phones too. So there would be chances that you can't control everything, when you're out and people want to take a picture or people want to sit across the street and take a video of you and post it. That's fair game too. So you still have to live your life with, some level of responsibility. You can't be reckless, which is, I don't think is asking a lot, but when, if a guy wants to let his hair down, he should be able to let his hair down without, as long as it's, nothing illegal, without that being posted on social media. But, I think boundaries in a different era were different now than they are now. I think, there were always guys that were hungry for a story or, to get something out there. But, we've seen people, fans, if we're out socially, where there was never a big deal then, and it probably wouldn't be a big deal now if we had to transport the mentality of 80s and 90s and put it in 2026. If it's the same mentality, those people would have some guardrails or some level of respect. Now all the guardrails are down, and for better or for worse, it is what it is. Everybody grew up in the same media era, just like in my era, we all grew up in the same media era, right? And there was, it was a treat to get, and this predates me, but if you got a Joe DiMaggio or Babe Ruth, if you got a picture of him, it was great. But if you saw those guys out, I'm sure there were a lot of stories. There are a lot of stories about Joe Namath, but I'm not sure those would have made it to the public square that is social media now. Maybe not, but guys probably told those stories around poker games, in smoky rooms.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure just like the modern athlete who's grown up with this, if you think about every kid that's in the NFL right now, or in any professional sport now in the NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, they've grown up going to showcases, having their own Instagram feeds already. It's much more comfortable for them because they've grown up in that world. But my guess is the players of your generation would have grown up in it. Some guys would have put their foot in their mouth and caused firestorms. Other guys would have handled it judiciously. I was trying to think about this with Phil, because Phil, he's active on social media. He has his own podcast and he posts things. But I'm thinking when Phil was a player, he probably would have been like Eli Manning, the player. Eli Manning has become a media star and posts stuff on Twitter and posts things on Instagram, promoting whatever he's doing, and has fun with things and takes shots at people in fun. But when Eli was playing, he wasn't posting anything. My guess is Phil Simms probably would have been the same way.
Yeah, I agree. There's that quarterback responsibility thing where the whole being locked in thing, and the expectation from the fans is that you don't see your quarterback all over social media. And if you are, you're doing it responsibly. But again, we're in a different era, where I call it the pick me era, where everybody wants all the attention. Not everybody, but a lot of these kids want a lot of attention, and it's a great opportunity if you're on the third wave of popularity in your sport. You can quickly rise by bringing attention to yourself. If you want people to know more about the interesting things you do, and that doesn't mean that you have to do stupid things, but you can amplify some of the things you do, and all of a sudden you're not a household name in your sport. You're a good player, but then you just start to amplify things, and people start to see you at a different level, and your base of followers will grow based on some of the things that you call attention to. So it's a great tool. I don't hate it for existing. I don't like it when people use it as an opportunity to abuse these young athletes and to say things that are just not cool, when you're not going to say it to the athlete's face. If you're willing to stand on it, then find the athlete and say those things to his face. Don't put it out on Twitter. But it's a cool platform. But it's a different time. There's so many different variables now, Bob, and there's so many different, when I talk variables, the things that shape the minds of the fan base and even the players, kind of dictates the discourse and the interaction with fans and players. And there are a lot of different interests on here, and the uptick in vitriol towards athletes, it's no coincidence that a lot of it is tied to their fantasy sports teams, and it has increased their passion, their fandom for whatever I don't want to say it's the wagering itself, but that has something to do with it. But like, these guys root harder now when they bet on you, and then if you don't get their desired result, sometimes it turns into some nasty commentary. And that's the gift and the curse. We're here, right? There was rotisserie back in the day where you had to do it through a newspaper. Now everything is so electronic, but you see guys, they go really hard for these athletes. And you can tell some of the guys, they're betting fantasy because they're just rooting so hard. And then they, drop an F-bomb in the middle of a game and you wonder, where's that coming from, right? And you find out he needed X for a parlay, right? Or mid-game parlay. And so it's created fans, it's created fandom, it's created fanatics, social media. And this is where we are, right? I'm not the hated, you guys, or you young guys need to grow up. It is what it is, Bob. And I just think every era requires some level of responsibility. The athletes, if you don't want to see it, don't post it. If somebody else posts it, you can then explain it. But don't open mouth and insert foot, or open app and insert foot. Because when you open that app and you decide to do some things, think twice before you do it in terms of some of the things you say.
Yeah, one of my buddies once said to me, Twitter X, it should come with a breathalyzer. Just before the internet police get after you. You talked about, like, when you were a young athlete, if you had a chance to get a picture with a famous person, you mentioned DiMaggio, could be Mickey Mantle, Reggie Jackson, pick somebody. You had mentioned Babe Ruth. Before everybody gets, Carl's not old enough to have gotten a picture with Babe Ruth. Okay, he was long dead, but before everybody chimes in on that. So I think it was you way back when who said, we should get this guy, the Biz, on the podcast. Chris Bisignano. And I started following him. And I really was intrigued with his content because it was like kind of old school. I actually have a Bic pen because he would do these film breakdowns with the All-22, and he'd be pointing at the screen and talking about what happened, and somebody didn't rotate over, and he had these great film breakdowns, and I became a big fan of his and the podcast that he was on, the Giant Insider Newspaper podcast. And the thing I always respected about Biz was not only did he do that film breakdown, but using this famed Bic pen, but he would also, I'd see him at the facility, I'd see him in the locker room, I'd see him talking to players, I'd see him talking to coaches. So he would bring some insight into all of this. So it is with great pleasure that we welcome in the one and the only Bic pen extraordinaire, Chris Bisignano. Biz, you got the Bic?
No one beats the Biz. No one beats the Biz.
Hey, fellas. First off, Carl, before we start up, I laugh at the Scatterbo stuff, right? That people are going crazy with it. Carl, you probably did more wild stuff in 2 hours in a club back in the day than Scatterbo has ever done in his career. Hey, Carl, I laugh because, me and you are the same. You're a couple years older than me, but, man, I used to hang at LT's place back in the day. I was a big Manhattan guy back in the day. And I knew a lot of people that remember you and all that stuff. And I would have to say, Carl, if social media was around back then, I was with Sean Landetta one night in a club back in the day. I think it was after you guys won. I think it was after you lost. I think it was going into the 86 season, Banksy. Okay. And I was with Landetta one night. He, not me and him personally, but he was in the same place as me. And a lot of people were like, hey, it is Landetta. And, Sean Landeta, we all know his reputation. He liked to party, Sean, back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was one funny guy. And the stuff he was doing, I'm not saying bad, folks. I'm just wild, funny stuff. Banks, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, without a doubt. Like I said, Sean Landeta was on page 6 before it was popular for athletes to be on page 6. And it was not a one-time thing. It was like every other week he was on page 6.
Banksy, it was the funniest thing with Sean back in the day. I was actually with him down to Shore in Cape May one year too. But for a guy who wasn't exactly Brad Pitt looking, he had the most gorgeous girls around him. It was amazing how Landeta did it. It was amazing. But yeah, Banksy, needless to say, I was listening to you before I came on. And if social media was around back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of guys would have to adjust real quick, or a lot of guys would be in trouble real quick.
Well, yes. And I think the fans, there were certain, and I don't know if it's because they didn't have the tools, Biz, but there were certain understandings there were gentlemen agreements that, with what's going on, if you're in here with me, then you don't need to be talking about me when you get out of here. Like, I think there's always going to be an element that wants to break a story, right?
Absolutely.
But when you're in an environment, and it probably holds true to this day too, if guys go out and party and they're in there with their other celebrity friends, nobody's running their mouth, right? Unless, somebody's in there that shouldn't be and they want to take pictures of all the guys and, oh, it's Saturday night and it's 2 nights before a Monday night game. And why is this guy out? Well, he wanted to go out, hang out,
because it was your Friday night.
Yeah, it was our Friday night. But it's again, I think, the nanny state of where we are in society. Right. And again, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but my grandson falls off his bike. I'm just like, get up and go. I'm not going to rush over. I'm like, get on, let's learn how to ride. Right. And that's kind of the era. It's rough and tumble. Right. And again, I don't begrudge any of these people, but just understand when you see a guy like Cam Scatterboo, he's going to be more all right than the guy who lays down on like a soccer player and just wails, and then they bring out a stretcher and then he gets up and says, no, I'm okay. Right. Yeah. If Cam Scatterboo can't get up, he's staying down. But if he can get up, he's not going to do all the dramatics. That's the type of people you want. But everybody wants to be super protective of, we don't want this guy to, be out late. He should be studying his playbook. They've studied for a very long time, folks, for, 4 or 5 days straight, endless meetings. And if he's a good player, then chances are, he's got his game plan down. The not so good players don't normally go out anyway. They know they don't need to be out on nights that they shouldn't be out. But it's
a different generation, Banksy. It's a different generation.
It's a different generation. I don't knock it. It is what it is. But, the rough and tumbleness of what guys do off the field, like Cam Scatterboo is not trying to run through a brick wall and show people he can knock down bricks or anything like that. But, that's what he's always been doing. Now, if you ask me, and I'm not, pro nanny state, but I would prefer him not to do it also. That was David Wilson's thing too, when he was here with the Giants. And I don't know what, he broke his neck, but not doing the flip, but like running into a goalpost or something.
Because he ran with his head down constantly.
Right. But, it's okay. It's a cool celebration. When he feels the legs can't do it no more, he's going to stop anyway. Yeah.
Speaking of camera phones, thank God you mentioned LTs on Route 17 or the Down Under. Eric Howard and Jumbo Elliott's place in Hoboken. Didn't last long, but it left a mark. Hey, Biz.
It was fun. Didn't last long, but it was fun while it lasted.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
Biz, I know that you had tweeted about this a while ago, but no great surprise, right, that Malik Nabers wasn't put on PUP to start camp?
No great surprise at all. They just want to take it very slow with Malik. It's all about progress now. It's all about progress, getting better each day, getting healthy each day. I know a lot of people he was going to be miss 4 or 5 games. He was going to be on the PUP list. And I don't know where people were getting that from. But where the Giants are at right now is that they're going to slowly work him in training camp. And they're going to see his progress. And the big thing is that what everybody's praying for and everybody's sitting back saying, we can't have a setback, right? We can't have a setback. So that's where they're at right now. They're hoping for the first week, but they're going to see where they're at. They're going to see. It's all about progress for Malik, how he gets healthy each and every day. John's going to work. Harbaugh's going to work him in practice, slow, but he'll start working his way in, and they'll see where he's at. But Pop, you mentioned something to me like last week or something. His injury was a little different because he blew his knee out leaping, not landing. And that could be obviously a longer rehab, and that's a little bit even more of a serious injury when you leap. And I looked it up, Pop, and you told me that when you're leaping, it's even more serious than actually landing. So, look, it's a process with Malik, and hopefully he continues to get better and better. They'll start working him in slowly, and they'll see where he's at.
Harbaugh's brought a lot of energy. Yesterday, the rookies reported officially, and I was in the building, and obviously, when I got to the building, I couldn't believe the amount of construction that's going on. Everything they're moving the equipment room to a temporary equipment room. They're just building. The cafeteria opened yesterday for the first time. And, the rookies were in there, and there was a schedule for them. But there was a lot of veterans in there. There were a lot of veterans in the facility just getting workouts in, not with coaches or anything like that, just getting conditioning in. And there really seems to be an energy because they're not due to report until Tuesday. But there were a lot of guys in there, including the quarterbacks, that were just getting some work in, and veteran players in the weight room and doing stuff like that. Biz, you've seen a lot of different coaching changes here recently, but obviously this one is different because someone's coming in with a resume.
Thank you.
And he's done a great job of diffusing any little controversies that may exist.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hold back on anything either. Like his whole deal is he's already announced that the rookie is starting at right guard. None of this, we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see. We're going to cross-train him. Yep. We'll see how he does. It's no, we drafted this guy for this.
Yeah.
He's starting, and now we're going to make it work, and we're going to figure out how to make it work because we believe in this player. It's a refreshing kind of attitude.
Yeah, Banksy and Pop, being at the draft presser with John Harbaugh, and they asked him about Reese. And he came out right out and said it. Oh, no, we're going to put him inside. And you know what? I remember sitting there saying, holy shit, did Harbaugh just announce where he's playing? Because I was so used to, like you said, we're going to cross-train him here. We're going to see what he's doing here. We're going to put him – you're never getting a straight answer out of previous coaches. Right. Where John Harbaugh, who is probably going to the Hall of Fame, he's definitely one Super Bowl win away, but he's probably going to go anyway down the road. And here he is telling us right out of the gate, Coach, what are you going to do with John, because today's Kool-Aid, nobody calls anybody coach anymore. Hey, John, what are you going to do with Arvell Reed? And he came right out and said it. Oh, we're going to play him inside. And like you said with CeCe, he's going to play right guard. He's our rookie. That's where he's starting. We're not used to that, right, Banksy? Right, Bob? We're used to the answers of, we don't know. He's going to work his way in. Much respect for John just to come out and say that. And like you said, Pop, the big difference here, look, every coach comes in fiery. I remember Joe Judge with his speeches and all that stuff. And I'm not knocking Joe, but that's the way he was. And the players, we're going to run. We're pumped up and all. But here's the big difference. You just mentioned it, Pop. Harbaugh has the resume. This guy's won over 180 games and a Super Bowl. So, Banksy, as you know, you can't fool the players with bullshit. Am I allowed to curse on this a little bit? I'm sorry. You can't fool the players with your nonsense, right, Banksy? Players will sniff your phoniness out right away. So what John,
Right.
John comes in with these speeches to the team, and I see people ripping him on social media. Oh, what kind of speech? Because he's real, right, Bob?
Yeah.
Right, Carl?
Well, and that's the part,
is.
Biz, you can appreciate about Coach Harbaugh is that the lines are clear, right? Just from day one, this guy's going to play here, this guy's going to play here. He does not lean into the narratives, if you will. Like, oh, all the draft experts say that Arvell Reese is a better edge than he is inside linebacker, where he played a lot of reps at inside linebacker, probably more in.
He was an inside backer. Yeah.
The very same experts were saying, well, he can develop into one of the best edges. How about he's already developed into one of the best inside linebackers? But players respect clarity. Right? Not for the sake of currying favor with players, but the courage of you're convicted. He's convicted. This staff is convicted in what they believe are the principles of winning. And not only what they believe, what is tried, tested, and true in the way they coach, in the way they approach this game. So players will respect the fact that the lines aren't blurred, that a defensive coordinator can come in and say, I'm not interested in being your friend. You know, here are your expectations. Let's go win some football games. That and they can do that in a manner that's not such an asshole way of doing it. And that's been Coach Harbaugh's thing. Denard Wilson is a different type of coach than Coach Harbaugh, but they all speak the same language. They all are on the same hymnal, if you will. So it's one message, and I think the players are just embracing this thing like I haven't seen. Like they all say it's harder than they've ever had, but winning is hard in this league. Right? And you got to do things. And Coach said something with Bob and I 2 days ago. I asked him, you know, is he on a rookie pace or is he on a schedule pace? He said, look, the train's moving. You got to get on it. He said, and if you don't, the game will make you pay if you're not ready. So everybody has to be ready to go. And that is life in the NFL as I've always known it as a player, right? You walk in, it wasn't, you know, let's bring this kid along, put him on the side. Like, hey, you get in and train's moving. You got to get on it and go fast, and you got to learn your stuff or else you're not going to play. But it's not, hey, we're going to have a special session for you or something, unless it's a different blitz package or something. Yeah. But players, they respect clarity. And, you know, when the lines are clear, the personalities will take care of themselves. If the lines are blurry, then that's when you get all of these different personalities trying to, you know, shapeshift yourself to fit one player and shapeshift yourself to, you know, appease another player. And then you get a locker room that just doesn't respect you because they think you play favorites.
You know, Banksy, I want to tell your audience, you know, a few things. When John got hired, I reached out to a few Baltimore people, you know, that covered the Ravens. What's the story? You know, what's John about? You know, and a couple of things I want to tell your audience is that I was told a few things as far as Harbaugh is not a screamer. He's not going to yell and berate a guy, okay? Mm-hmm. But he will get in a guy's grill, and he's going to let the guy know, hey, I need more from you. You're this, you're that. You got to get along. Like you just said, you got to get on this train because I know what you could do, and you're not doing it. He has his way again. He could be tough, Harbaugh. Believe me when I'm telling you. I know a lot of people like, oh, he's giving these speeches. Oh, is this another Dable? It looks like he wants to be friendly. No, he gets his point across to players. He could be tough when he has to be tough. He's just not a guy on the sideline. You know, Brian, and I'm not knocking Dave's, but he had his own style. He was very emotional. He would fly off. We saw it, right? I'm not giving you guys anything new here. Harbaugh, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see him throwing clipboards, but man, he will get his point across to players. Okay, that's one thing. And another thing a couple of people told me is that, hey, Chris, you're not going to find a better game day coach than John Harbaugh. Because, Banksy, as you know, a lot of head coaches, they come from the coordinator position and all that stuff, and they're not prepared as much as they should be on game day, man. They don't make the adjustments during the game as much as they should be, because it's not about halftime adjustments, right, Banksy? It's adjusting as you move along.
Yeah, in real time. And I want to give a shout out to all those head coaches or coordinators that were once special teams coaches. There's something to be said, like, and again, when we had Coach on earlier, and people they'll gloss over this, but he said some of us weren't gifted play callers. Some of us weren't gifted, offensive coordinators. We had to grind it out. The one thing that we know that's consistent about special teams, there always have to be an in-game adjustment. That's the one thing they have to do all the time. Yeah. There's a guy that's not available. You got to adjust and get another guy. And it's a guy that you never even had a rep, right? Yeah. But that was Bill Belichick, right? If you talk to Dave Merritt down in Tampa, he will tell you that all they do is adjust. But that's why he's one of the best special teams in football, and one of the best special teams coaches. Is Coach Merritt in Tampa? Or he was in Kansas City. He's still in Kansas City. Or did he go? He went from Tampa to Kansas City, or Kansas City to Tampa, whatever. But wherever he goes,
Dave's at Kansas City.
Yeah, yes. Our guys.
They go.
McGahee.
They do a good job. Yeah. But that's what these guys do, and that's kind of his upbringing told him you got to be a finger on the pulse in the moment type of coach.
You know what, Bob? Just getting back to what you said, man, enthusiasm with the players, man. Hey, it's Harbaugh on the resume, man. I mean, this guy obviously can coach. The respect he demands and all that, so it should be an interesting and fun time.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 193 total wins.
Yeah.
He's over 60% win percentage over a long period of time. That doesn't happen by accident. Right? We see guys have, when it was a 16-game schedule, we'll see 10-6, 11-5, and then you'll see, 7-9, or whatever it is. Like, he has consistently won over a long period of time. Biz, I want to ask you this. So we're all excited about the team, and we're excited about Harbaugh and the direction. But what would be your biggest concerns? Because, I mean, this is still a 4-win team. And coming off 4 wins. Now, again, they blew double-digit leads in 4 games. They blew an 18-point lead with 6 minutes to go in Denver against a team that wound up having a great season. So there's more underneath that 4 wins than you might say, but they found ways to lose those games in a myriad of different ways. But what would be your concern about this team from a personnel standpoint?
Yeah, well, Pop, I mean, obviously the defense is still a concern, right? Why did they lose those games last year? Because the defense couldn't get stops when they needed to, right? And look, you could say what people want to say about Dexter Lawrence, but that is a huge hole to fill. Dexter is still a very talented football player, man. And they didn't really fill that hole. So that the defense, to me, I look at it and go, okay, so did we get better? Well, linebacker-wise, that's his strength, right? Definitely, no question about it. But up front, you got a bunch of veterans. And they're relying on Darius Alexander, a second-year man, big time. And in the back end, it's still question marks, all right? Adebo's going to have to rebound. You got Greg Newsome, a former number 1 on the other side. You got Tay Banks, who I've been pledging, who I've been saying, okay, I said it on the podcast. I've been saying this before I was relieved of my services by the Giant Insider, okay, that expect a rebound year from Tay Banks, because I know that Tay was going through some issues last season, some personal stuff, and I'm not going to get into it. I never did. But I think he's in the right frame of mind this season. I think he's going to rebound and have a pretty good – I could be dead wrong, but I think watch for him. But they're going to need a guy like that, man, because Newsome – listen, he's a former #1 pick. He's on his, third team now, Pop, right? Whatever it is. And good luck with that. We don't know what we're going to get with that. Adebo, solid player. Did he play to that contract last season? No, I don't. The safety position, Holland and Newman, didn't really play up to what we thought they were. But now there is a different coordinator who's going to move them around and put them in better positions to succeed. So that's what you want to see. But I'm not going to lie to you and say, okay, we got Denard Wilson, so we're good. We still have to see it. So that back end, that front, up front, stopping the run, that's still a concern for me because the Giants blew. Look, I know the Giants were 4-13, but man, they could have easily been 8-9, right, Pop? Even 9-8 last year if the defense gets some stops in clutch time. So that's the big concern for me, no question about it.
So Biz, I'm just going through this roster and yes, Dexter Lawrence, he's a top 10 guy. He's not number 9 now, but he was a top defensive lineman when he was on, right?
Absolutely.
But you're never replacing that. What you want to replace is the production on those downs. Right. So when Dexter was in and Dexter's playing well, if teams average 1.1 yards per run when Dexter Lawrence is on it, you want the 1.1 yards. Right. And I'm seeing, okay, there's DJ Reader. Now the one that I want to keep an eye on, they tell me, is BJT. I call him Big Traffic Jam, Bobby Traffic Jam. They say he's pretty explosive. Doesn't do a lot of things, but he plays the run well. DJ Reader, they've got bodies, right? And when you have bodies, you'll find 1 or 2 of those guys who are gamers. And then everything else revolves around your linebackers, right?
Banksy, that's the hope. But, these guys are in their 30s.
Right. So I'm trying to say this in a way that does not minimize my teammates. But the strength of my teams were linebackers. Leonard Marshall is a borderline Hall of Famer, if not. Just bigger names out there. So you got him. I don't know if they have that. Right? They
don't have a Lenny Marshall.
They don't have a Leonard Marshall.
They don't even have an Eric Howard right now, Banksy.
Well, for every one of those, there's a Eric Dorsey who played well. There's a John Washington who played well with our linebackers, right?
Play the run. Yeah.
Now, Jim Burt, you ain't gonna have him, and he wasn't the most skilled player. But he was a freaking Tasmanian devil, right? But everything, if those guys played their roles, right, the linebackers made life easy for everybody. And I think that's what they're counting on. Just do what we ask you to do. Be where you're supposed to be. Like, you're not replacing. Dexter was exceptional. He did a lot of different things that people his size ain't supposed to be able to do.
Right.
That's not expected. If you're supposed to be in this gap so that Edmonds can be here and Reese can be here, just do your job. You'll still get the first down average of 1.1 yards instead of giving up 3 yards on first down or 4 yards on first down. You just want the production. They can script that production when it comes down to defining what everybody's roles are. Like when you have your big guys inside, this is what we need you to do. Darius Alexander, this is what you have to get good at. This is what we don't need you to get sacks. We need you good on first down. We will script the sacks for you when that time comes. But right now, this is what you have to do. DJ Reader, this is what you have to do. and on and on and on. They got enough bodies and able bodies to be able to do that. But you're just never getting Dexter. They don't make those every day, right? Because he was exceptional beyond the call of duty. When he was on, he was a very disruptive guy.
Phenomenal. Yep.
But the challenge, now you're right to be concerned about the run game because they haven't shown us that they can stop it, right?
No.
I know that Kayvon Thibodeau healthy helps them, right? But the interior guys, the construct is different now. The mindset is, this is your role. I need you to do this on this down. We're going to call it. We want you to play it the way we're calling it. Let the athletes do their jobs. This is what you have to do. And if they can accomplish that, they're going to be fine.
I also think you got to let it run its course, right? Whether it's Darius Alexander or whomever, they work in there because, Biz, you know this, Carl, you know this. You know, when Dexter Lawrence, he was one of 2 first-round draft picks for the Giants. And, you know, after year 2, there was a lot of conversation of like, all right, he looks like a nice player, but was it kind of a waste of a pick at number 17? I mean, that was the feeling. And then he developed,
right,
and he was given opportunities, and he blossomed, to his credit, as a player who, starting in 22, became a dominant force. And I would say halfway through the 24 season, he might have been the premier inside defensive lineman in the game, especially once Aaron Donald retired. But remember, the first 2 years, there were a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, man, they kind of botched that pick, that for number 17 overall. So I think you got to give it time. And I think you also have to give it, I think that's where coaching comes in too with all this. What does this staff do? Yeah. Because do you have any concerns offensively? Well, they got a lot of guys at receiver, but unless we know Malik Nabers is healthy, you know, there's a lot of guys that have various question marks for various reasons.
Yeah, Pop. I mean, that's obviously the position of concern. No question about it. If Malik, man, if something, you know, I remember last year before the season saying, man, if something happens to Malik, they're done. They're done. And unfortunately, it happened, right? And the receiver position wasn't really good. I know Wandale got his 90 catches and all that stuff, but, you know, if Malik, again, you know, you look at these guys as a receiving group, it's a concern again, you know, because you know what really sucks, fellas, is that we just don't know what's going to be up with Malik, right? If Malik works his way back, he's a legit number 1 receiver in this league. He's proven that, no question about it. But it's all about health with him, you know. So everybody else will compliment if Malik gets back to being that number 1 receiver. But if he doesn't work his way back, or God forbid, he gets his way back, and then something happens with the knee and he has to go down again, it's going to be a huge concern because, you know, you look at that receiving group, right, Pop? If Malik's healthy, say week 1 against Dallas, and hey, you have to account for him, man. We have to game plan for Malik, right? If Malik is not there, defensive coordinators are not sitting up all week to 4 o'clock in the morning saying, how are we going to stop this guy? How are we going to stop this guy, right? So that's how much of a difference making Malik is, because it keeps coordinators up all hours of the night saying, how the hell are we going to stop this guy?
Right. Then it shifts to likely as opposed to having to worry about.
Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of give you guys a different perspective on this. Malik Nabers is not part. No. Malik Nabers is not part of this core, right? If you have a problem with they don't have a pure number 1 receiver, it's great, right? Everybody, the team, the other teams know it as well as the Giants. What does the offense run through traditionally with John Harbaugh?
Oh, they're going to run the ball. They want to impose their will.
They're going to run the ball. They got a lot of tight ends, and they're going to do a lot. You're going to see a lot of, not the same routes, but they'll be able to distribute the ball a lot differently. And if you can run the ball and you can play action pass, you'll get production. It's all about production. When you don't have that one standout, right, then it becomes about the production. It becomes about wearing your opponent out, right? When you have that one star, it's still about the production, but then you can take the top off. But when you look at Baltimore, can you name 3 top receivers that they've had over the years?
Yeah. I mean,
you can name all the tight ends, though, can't you?
Yeah, I mean,
you can name all of their tight ends. I can name you four really good tight ends that are contributors. Now I'm not diminishing any of their wide receivers. I'm just saying they've just not had this outsized talent like a Malik Nabers.
They haven't.
But they've been able to consistently win, right? And that's because they play a brand of football that will make adjustments. They will build a structure that fits their talent. They're not a talentless team. They don't have the outsized talent at wide receiver that Malik Nabers is at this moment, but they got a lot of guys who can move the chains. And if you can run on first down and you're second and short, then it's a dealer's choice. So that's why they have Picard on the team, and they kept Chris Manhertz on the team because they're gonna bloody your nose, and then likely is a mismatch for a safety and a linebacker, right? If Darius Slayton is not your number one receiver, and he's not counted on to just take the top off and catch every pass. Now, I want him to catch every pass. Obviously, we all do. But they're contributors. There's speed on the roster, but it's not the talent that one person possesses in Malik Nabers. But they got a lot of those things within the roster. And when you look at how he's done it over the years, it's been,
Carl, I just want to just to clarify. I'm not saying they can't move the ball when I'm like the question.
No. I'm just giving you a different perspective.
Was my concern. Yeah.
Right, and it's a valid concern. But like I said, I just want to offer a different perspective because right now in their coaching room, Malik Nabers is not there as they put together their offense.
Yeah,
they have a contingency when he is there, but right now they're building an offense around what they have in the way that they want to move the football, and they're a big physical team. They have a versatile quarterback, and they want to get you in second and medium and second and short situations. That's how they want to play it, so that then the passing game becomes dealer's choice.
Yep. I mean, like you said, Carl, they never had a legit number one in Baltimore for years. I mean, they did. Now, let's not forget, they also had a 2-time MVP quarterback too, which helped, and that's what we hope Jackson slowly develops into. But I'm not saying they can't move the ball, they can't score points. I'm just saying that the question was, what concerns you? And the receiver group does concern me right now.
Well, I would say it concerns me in terms of what type of production you're going to get from certain guys.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree with you there. I don't even know. And it's going to be a fun competition to watch. It might be underwhelming for people, but I believe that Odell Beckham's going to make the team because he's going to be the best route runner. He's going to have the best hands. I think Darius Slayton is going to make the team because he's going to outwork everybody and he's going to know his role, and he's going to, if he catches the balls they throw to him, he's fine. The guy that I'm just curious of, and I don't think they're going to be as enamored with the speed if you can't be available for them in whatever capacity, is Jalen Hyatt. Like, he could be a difference maker, but he just has not been able to get on the field for whatever those reasons are. And I continue to root for the kid, but it's like now you're just back in the pool of people. You're no longer a high draft choice in Joe Shane's head because Coach Harbaugh said, no, they're all in the same bucket. Let's see who comes out of this funnel, right? So there's a larger mandate for him as a wide receiver, but there's no names, right? Odell Beckham is your name, and he's going to be Odell Beckham from a consistency standpoint, from a work standpoint, in a precision route running standpoint. He's going to do all those things. He's going to find a way on this roster. But some of the other guys who we had been waiting around for, you might as well turn the page and say, okay, they're starting over. Let's see what they look like, right? And you've got a rookie wide receiver who's going to factor in right away, Malachi Fields. So there's people there, and they'll get production. I'm just curious to see what comes through the funnel, what shakes out.
And don't forget Darnell Mooney, Banksy, who has a resume in this league.
And Calvin, I think Calvin Austin's going to make he's going to make Giants fans forget about Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah.
For the segment of the Giant fan base that's fretting over, oh my God, we lost Wan'Dale. I think Calvin Austin brings the same skill set. He can return, plays a similar role, and when you start looking at the mosaic of a salary cap, he's a lot cheaper than what Robinson got on the open market.
Yep. And
then you have Juju. I mean, it'll be interesting. The big question with Odell is, does he make it through all the practices? Is there not the injuries that, a calf or a quad or whatever that sidelines him, because every rep is going to count. He knows that. You could just see his body language now when he's on the field. It's a whole different thing than when he first showed up as a rookie. Biz, I want to ask you a question. You mentioned you're no longer part of the Giant Insider Newspaper podcast.
Yeah.
First of all, the Big Pen. You caught my attention. Where did it all start for you with this breaking down coaches film? Because Banksy brought you to my attention because he's looking at all this stuff on X, and there's this guy, and you and the Big Pen just drawing on plays. And I used to laugh, because, all these guys have fancy stuff. And here's this Italian guy on X with the heavy accent, but he knows what he's talking about. Tell me where it started for you and how it evolved.
Well, look, football was always an absolute passion of mine since I was from the 70s. Okay. And right through the Banksy years. And obviously Bob, me and you are the same age, Bob, and football was always something that I just couldn't get enough of, man. From Kenny Stabler days to falling down to throwing. I mean, that just hooked me back in the days, man. The Jack Tatum days, Pop, you remember. So I always said that if I ever had the opportunity to cover a team or be involved somehow, man, I just want to sit there and look at what this guy's doing and this guy's doing, because you don't really understand being a season ticket holder. You don't understand why the safety's here. You don't understand who's got coverage here. Are they in cover 3? They're in cover 1. You learn all that stuff. And like everything else I do, Bob, and, when I get into something, I just dive into it, and I'm obsessed with it. I did that with golf years ago. I remember starting to play golf, and you know how it is, Pop. You get on a golf, and you're hitting the ball right, left, and you're playing with a foursome, 2 other guys that are hitting a dead center. And I said to myself, never F it again. Am I stepping on this golf course if I'm not hitting those damn fairways and I'm not making a fool out of myself again? So I jumped into everything. So I had the opportunity, and Jerry Foley, the editor, I'll always be grateful for Jerry for this. He took a chance on me, an unknown, and I started getting into it. And then that 22 film came out, and I fell in love with it, man. I mean, to watch every play, what everybody was doing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try to break this down to see what this guy was doing. I want to do something new. And I broke out I didn't even mean for the Big Pen. I just broke it out. And the Big Pen just caught. But so what happened was, me and Banksy, and I'll always be grateful for Carl, who's a Hall of Famer. I don't give a shit. He's not officially in. We all know Carl's a Hall of Famer. He will be in one day, right? And we became friends. And we start, and there'd be times where I look at a play and I'll be like, I'm not going to put this out there unless I want to be, and I'll be reaching out to Carl. Carl, what do you see on this here? This is what I see. And Carl like, hey, Biz, boop, this guy, it was a cover 2. it was a cover 4, whatever it might have been. And then I would start putting, I said, thank you, Carl, because Carl was always great like that. Text him, the dude gets right back to you. This is what I saw, I mean, to me, this whole ride, this whole adventure, to have a guy like Carl Banks, who me and my dad, man, looked up to from day. I was at Carl's first practice training camp back in '84.
Wow.
And I remember, like LT's call, I've mentioned it before. I was at his first practice, and I remember him destroying people in the first. Anyway, and I'm saying to myself, "Holy shit!" Like, freaking Carl Banks is responding back. We became friends all these years.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, and I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna start showing people, because people would be putting stuff on social media. Oh, this guy blew that assignment. Oh, this guy. Oh, he didn't do this right. Oh, and then I'd be like, no, what are you talking about? They were in a cover 3. That's not that guy's responsibility and all that stuff. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start putting it out there. The Big Pen was just a fluke. I just always have a pick in my hand. I started doing that. That caught fire. And then, obviously Carl, Bob, me and you we started reaching out to each other years ago, and we became obviously very good friends and all that stuff. And that's how it kind of caught wind when people were responding back to me, saying, hey, Biz, this is great. I love the way you break this down. And then you have a legend, a Hall of Famer like Banksy saying, yeah, you're right. Or I wasn't always right. I mean, Banksy would be like, no, Biz, it was a cover 4. Or this guy was on a safety. I'll never forget, there was one play. I forget which game it was. I think it was Logan Ryan or something. And he had a late pick against the Commanders. And I remember Banksy, he dropped down into the bottom, whatever. And Banksy, I asked, hey, Carl, it looks like he dropped down to like a robber. And Banksy, yeah, he was in a robber role. He came down and I would put that out and stuff like that. So I always grateful for Carl for that, man, for the friendship. And I did a lot of stuff. And people just started responding to me, Bob, saying, hey, Biz, this is great. You know, so-called know you shit a lot of the times, whatever, not every time. No, and people loved it. And I kept doing it. And people actually looking forward to Big Tuesdays, right, Carl? It was like,
Right. And the thing is,
on Mondays to see what the hell the Giants did, I started breaking down stuff during the week, especially on the Tuesdays. And it just caught fire, man. Yeah. And a lot of people like doing that 22 stuff. And it was a great time. But that's how it started.
I remember last year you would call me up about, the safety play and obviously, Tyler Newman, who I think is going to have a great year this year as well in the system. But, the whole thing with him was these angles, taking bad angles, right? And then I remember one time you sent me a play and you was like, what is this? What is he doing? And I hit you back. I'm like, you could drive a truck through this hole. So you can't put this on a safety to defend a gap that wide, right? Or it might have been the linebacker was where he was supposed to be and the safety wasn't, or the defensive lineman. So, it became fashionable for everybody just to pile on, right? And we knew the kid took some angles, right? Some bad angles at times. But there were other times where he was where he's supposed to be. And imagine standing in the middle of the New Jersey Turnpike trying to defend, a car that can go either way. And I'm just like, no, Biz, not on this one. This wasn't on him. This, the linebacker, Darius Muasau was out of his gap. He overran the play, which made the hole that much bigger. And so those are like really cool interactions that we get a chance to have because we kind of give, and it allows you to give, a little more specificity to things when, again, we're in an era of mob mentality. So if somebody says it has to be taken at face value without context sometimes. And sometimes you have to be able to be that person to say, okay, well, no, here's the context to this. Right. Well, and, I think that's always been helpful.
Banksy, I'll always be appreciative for that. And in the future for my future projects. But look, we're in the same age group. I believe in content, not clickbait. Okay. That's me. And I think that's what a lot of people appreciated over the years before my previous, employer decided he didn't need me anymore. Didn't need my service anymore, that I wanted to put content out there. Okay. Not fanboy stuff, not clickbait, because people appreciate the football content. Yeah, there'll be a small group like, well, can we talk about how the Eagles suck and all that? That's nice. But the people want, hey, what happened here? Whoa, all this and all that stuff. So, you know what? The connections I made, Bob Papa for, I don't respect. I mean, I respect people. There's a lot of people I don't respect their knowledge. They really don't know the game. And me and Bob have been friends for years, and we talk on the side about every team in this damn league. And for a guy who didn't play in the NFL, there's nobody. Only people like you, Banksy, other guys that played in the league, they could break down what the hell happened here. But there's nobody more knowledgeable than Bob.
Well, because I learned from
so
Carl and I go back to 1989.
Yeah. So so there are some out there who, let's just say Bob is not like you. Some think that
not like me. He's not like me. Yeah, no, I gotta straighten him out.
There are people, but
you know him.
There's like the whole Bob Papa is just this or just that. It's like when I'm gonna tell this story because I got a chuckle out of it. And when the whole Dexter thing was going on, and his coach, got in front of the media, I guess he called himself taking a shot at me when he said, "Oh yeah, Carl Banks was a good player for the Giants." And I was like, yes, so was Michael Jordan, a good player for the fucking Chicago Bulls. Right? So, there's levels to the shit, right? But like when people think, well, Bob's just a fan who got a job. No, fuckers. It's way beyond that. The resume you couldn't even touch if you tried. So, and this is no one in particular, but this is just some of the rhetoric when Bob has something to say. It's like, well, why does he get this? He's in there.
Well,
he knows
he's
experienced.
My last word on that, coach, was, I guess because your name is in the Ring of Honor behind the Giants bench, I guess his back was always to your name because he didn't recognize your name is up there as one of the great players of all time.
But, it was not in my best interest because I'm a Giant, right? So I don't want
your resume is your resume.
Right.
You're
forever fights with coaches. I support these coaches, right? But like when I guess he felt he had to defend his guy, and I great, do whatever. The film said what it said, right? And opposing coaches said what they said to me. But that's a whole nother, that's water under the bridge. I root for Dexter and I want him to do great.
Absolutely.
But like when the coach came out and he stood there and he said it like a couple days in a row, and I'm just sitting here laughing. I'm like, yeah, I guess you call yourself taking a shot. Yeah, he's a good player for the Giants. I was like, yeah, so was Michael Jordan, a good player for the fucking Bulls too. So yeah.
Yeah, they weren't happy with you, Cole. I can tell you that being in the locker room.
That's what it is.
Well,
but one last thing. I could just say this. There's a lot of people, they should be fortunate that you're a class act, Banksy, and you keep your mouth shut. And you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that they're lucky that you're a class act, dude, and you don't have a bad heart because you could blow a lot of things up. And you know what I'm talking about. I'll never.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, man, sometimes you make an assessment. I root for the Giants, right? So I have no interest in getting in fights with coaches because it's not in my best interest or theirs or our fans, right? I'm rooting for them. I want them to be great. I'm not going to bite my tongue with my critiques. But if you want to make it personal, I'll make a determination. And I made that determination that it wasn't worth it because I work and I show up every day to see these guys and I root for them. So, he wanted to say what he had to say,
Absolutely. But yes, the other thing that
there is a dark side that I suppressed.
Oh, I know, Banksy. I know.
There's another thing. Well, you mentioned like leaning into Banks, leaning into other people, because Phil Simms told me this many years ago. He's like, you could sit there and watch coaches tape all you want, but if you don't understand what the concepts are or what is, and Carl, you and I ran into this. This is probably about 7-8 years ago, where I can't remember which linebacker it was or whatever, that you really liked his talent, but he always seemed to be making mental error. And you pulled the kid aside and you asked him, sitting in front of some film, but he was being told that his job was to do this. And it blew your mind away because it went against everything that you had ever learned as a linebacker. So he was grading out really well, but it was not looking good on tape. So Biz, it kind of circles back to this, leaning into Carl to put context into your Big Pen breakdowns, but also to then be in the locker room as you were on such a regular basis, getting to know players, getting to know the coaches, and then on the side being able to ask questions. Because sometimes, as again, like you said, the Mack truck safety taking a bad angle. Well, you can't take a good angle when the hole is X wide and everybody's circling this person. But there's usually a cause and effect for all this stuff. You brought that to your audience on your podcast and on your big breakdowns. I think that's one of the other lessons here, is that it's one thing to circle and point out, but it's another thing to have information behind it. And I think your audience is going to be at a big loss for that, not having that insight into what you brought to the table.
Yeah,
exactly. You know, Bob, there will be so many times I'll look at the 22 and I said, okay, when I see this guy in the locker room, I'm going to ask him exactly what happened here. And I tell you, man, for all the years covering the Giants, I never had a problem with anybody. I would go up to a guy, and there's been numerous times I went up to a guy, hey, you got a second? Look, this is what I saw on this play. Can you explain? And he'd be like, no, I had this. Oh, yeah, no, I kind of blew this guy. I'm telling you, and I wouldn't put the guy's name on social media, but I would kind of explain what happened to on the play in my own way, because I don't believe in blowing people up. I never did, as far as making a guy look bad. You know what I mean? But the guy, like, there was a play last year, and I remember a guy at one of the safeties, I'm not going to really mention him, and he goes, no, I blew that. I blew that. You know, and I'm like, oh, I appreciate it for being, and I would kind of word it in a way like, yeah, it looks like this safety did this. And I don't want to say, hey, so-and-so told me, yeah, he blew that, Reed, and all that stuff. Even Javon Holland, to his credit, there was one play last year at Banksy. I think you remember this, Bob. You remember this. He kind of got lost on the back end. I'm going to be nice about it. I'm always respectful. You know me, guys. I'm going to be respectful about it until it's time not to be respectful. And but there was a guy, he kind of got lost. Banksy, I think you remember this play. He kind of got lost on the back end, Javon, a little bit. And he was kind of wandering. I'm going to be nice about it. He was kind of wandering. And I remember looking at the 22, was pointed out to me by somebody. And I said, holy shit, what the hell was he thinking? What the hell was he doing? But I always sat back, right? And I said, well, you know what? I'm not an expert, so I want to make sure before I put something like, what the hell is this guy doing here? And I went to the guy. I went to him and I said, hey, listen, I got to ask you something. This one play. And he goes, I know it was the wrong read. And he just shook his head. I said, thank you. Enough said. I wasn't going to sit there and go, oh, what were you doing? I can't believe that. You know what I mean? It was just like, I understood from his body. Even Dex. There was a time with Dex, and he looked me right in the eye, and he knew I was talking about a certain player that was not on board. And I said, hey, Dex, and I present, and Dex goes, I know you're talking about. It was cleaned up. I promise you, that person was talking. I didn't have to say, hey, did you see so-and-so? What's this problem? You know, like Dex knew who I was talking about.
Right. That must have been in 24 or 23, not last year.
No, it was 2 years ago. Dex was a little different last year, guys. He was a little different in the locker room last year. I'm not going to get into it. He's no longer on the team. I'm not going to knock him, but he was a little different last year in the locker room. But that's the way I approached it, Bob. You know, I like to go to the players, and I tell you, man, there was never one time where I say when a player goes, "What are you talking about? You didn't play this game, or you didn't see it. Who are you to?" Most guys would be like, "No, I did this. I did this. No, I had the right read, but whatever it might have been." So I always appreciate players doing that, and I put that out as content, and people really, really like that because that's what people love, right, Bob? I call like, oh man, give me football stuff, man. Give me football stuff. Because today's social media age is just like, let's just jump and get clicks and let's just rip something out there. And they don't even know what the hell they're even talking about, so.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to get some clicks right now. Why are you not at the Giant Insider Newspaper podcast anymore? Because you grew the brand with the Big Pen. You brought to the podcast this insight that didn't necessarily exist. How come you're not doing it anymore?
Well, I don't know. It seems like people wanted to make changes and wanted to do it themselves and whatever it might be. And So they decided they're going to do it themselves, and they want to run with it and all that. And it really wasn't handled that well, but I'm going to get into it. There's been a lot of stuff people ask. I have so many people reach out to me. What the hell's going on? What the hell happened? So I'm going to put my own little video out there because there's some maybe not 100% truth going on out there. And a lot of people just want to know, hey, Biz, what the hell's going on? Because, we haven't. So it was.
We have a big reach here. Go ahead.
What was that?
So we have a big reach here.
Yeah,
our audience is your audience. Fire away. Go ahead. This is your platform.
Oh, let's just say this. The Giant Insider and all the people affiliated with it they felt it was time to they want to do it themselves and move on from me and for their own personal reasons, I guess, and all that. So what are you gonna do? It happens. I don't like the way it was handled. I didn't even have the chance, when I started the Insider, it was like 11, 12,000 followers. I kind of built it up to 47,000 plus at one time. Mm-hmm. I never really had a chance to go on and say to everybody, hey, I really appreciate the support and thank you for everything, because I was blocked off the Twitter account. The account was,
you were blocked off of the Insider Twitter account?
I couldn't log in anymore. The password was changed. And I couldn't even say, hey, listen, everybody, I really appreciate the support all these years. Look for me in the future. I might think about. So I got to be honest with you, Bob and Carl. I met so many great people, especially at training camp time of year, that were followers. And so many people reaching out to me now that they're finding out the truth, what really happened. Looking to set me up on different platforms, setting me up. Everybody's saying you got to do a podcast. So it feels good, but because I look, you two guys know my background. I'm not from the media world. Okay. I just jumped into this. Like I said, I'll always be appreciative of Jerry Foley, the editor, for taking a shot with me. I'll always be appreciative of that. And I met so many people, man. I mean, so many people. I mean, from Hall of Fame type guys like Buffalo Hall of, like Vic Carucci's of the world that brought me on their shows. And obviously with Banks and you and the great people at Believe Network. And all the insiders that followed, and we go back and forth around the league, and so many, becoming friends with the Rich Seiberts of the world, the Mark Collins of the world, I all appreciated the work and the content. It meant a lot to me. It really did over the years, especially a guy like Banksy, who obviously could break down and nobody knows the game better than Carl, what's happening on the field and stuff like that. So, and then getting relationships, right? You guys know I had good relationship with previous head coaches where we would talk on the side. I have relationships with people inside 1925 Giants Drive that kind of liked my work and kind of trusted me. They would tell me all this stuff, including you guys, that they knew that I would never reveal to anybody. I could have revealed stuff to get clicks and get more follows. I'm 59, fellas. You know me. That's not my act. You know what I mean?
Right.
And all that. I had a career way before this Giant stuff, man. This Giant stuff was just something that was great, and it took win, and and the train kept rolling for many years. So to have relationships with so many people that, man, I remember when Banks. I remember when Papa was hired as a Giants play-by-play guy, and my first thing out of my falls, I was like, "Hey, it's about time I got an Italian guy in there." You know what I mean? So, and in Banksy, I showed you a picture years ago. You had an event with my dad. I showed you the picture, and you were there with 1990, I think it was, after the second one, Carl. And I never forget my father coming back, and he was at some kind of business thing, and you guys were there at Giant Stadium, and he came back to me. He says, "I said, how was Carl Banks? How was Brian? How were those guys?" And I never forget. He was like, "Man, Carl Banks. What a gentleman, man. He was aces. And then to get to know you personally, Carl, over the years, was just one of the many perks of this business and being a Giants fan. I was a season ticket holder with my dad in the 70s, man. I went through the wilderness years, Banks, way before you got there, buddy. And all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun. And Section 306 for a lot of years, Papa knows the wilderness years, the John Mendenhall years, Dave Jennings years, and all that stuff. So it was a good time, and we'll see what the future holds.
All right, so Biz, how can people follow you on Instagram and
all right?
X?
So I'm on Instagram at Chris Bisignano Senior, and I now opened up an X account at the real Chris Biz. I want to just give a shout out to my fellow beat writers, the Art Stapletons, the Ryan Dunleavys, the Jordan Rand, all those guys. They heard what happened and they all promoted it yesterday. And all of a sudden, I got a shitload of followers started coming in.
Oh,
a lot
awesome.
of people didn't know what the hell happened to me. It wasn't really, explained, and I'm explaining it now. But so I want to thank those guys. So obviously you, Bob, and Carl, and all that stuff, and I want to thank everybody.
Biz locked out of the account to say goodbye. That's the headline. Well, yeah, you always got a spot coming on with us.
Yeah, anytime, bro. Anytime.
Now and then.
I appreciate
Carl,
it,
how do we
guys.
like to end this thing?
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Believe in
Giants.